We are changing diabetes, type 1 diabetes stuff. I'm changing this sensor that usually goes on my arm. That's where the old one was at. And I'm changing this little site right here. And that's my insulin pump. And they connect. Well, that didn't work according to... There we go. I just want to say before I start anything, I think there are horrible diseases in the world. And diabetes is not the worst one, just to let everybody know. I do think it's a super serious disease. It's the 6th top leading cause of death in the United States. But we're gonna continue. But I used to say all the time, God, why did you give me this disease? Why would you allow me to have this horrible illness that I have to keep up with all the time and monitor 24/7, and that takes years off of my life, and makes me feel really goofy all the time. Like, why did you give this to me? So backstory, I'm a nurse. I had this patient one day that had this disease called CIPA, and what that stands for is congenital insensitivity to pain and anhidrosis. Basically what that means is a part of this patient's brain was not able to sense when there was pain in her body. So like if you pinched her, she couldn't feel it at all. This patient was admitted at the hospital because she had a very, very extensive burn on her body. And this burn, I forgot to add in a detail. So basically, she was burned while cooking and wasn't able to feel it. It got really infected, and then she ended up at the hospital. It was so bad to where she actually had to have fluid injected in her vessels because so much was seeping out of this burn that she got. With that being said, it showed me the importance of feeling pain. It showed me the importance of experiencing suffering and pain. Pain and suffering are needed sometimes in order to develop you or protect you in certain ways. So for years I would shake my fist at God and say, God, like, why did you give me this freaking disease? This is horrible. I'm having complications from it. I'm not normal. I can't do all the things that my friends can do. So like, why would you give this to me? And after having that patient at the hospital, I started to understand why God would allow me to have a disease. So things I've learned from having diabetes, it taught me that I am completely responsible for my actions. If I don't give my insulin, I'm gonna feel like crap. If I don't eat right, I'm gonna feel like crap. It taught me that my actions have a direct outcome that are either good or bad. I think having diabetes made me grow up a little fast. I think that being completely responsible for your insulin shots, sticking your fingers, I think that all made me grow up really, really quick. Keep track of how many carbs I ate throughout the day, make sure that I have enough insulin for the day. Having diabetes also made me realize how expensive this crap is and made me realize that I'm gonna have to get a job to provide for myself. Also, having diabetes is the main reason that I got into the medical field, and I have a huge heart for people and I just want to help them now, help them to feel better, which is pretty freaking sick. It also made me volunteer at diabetes camps for kids, and it gave me an incredible passion to like want to talk to little kids and teach them about how to administer insulin, how to keep up with your blood sugar. It gave me a passion for that, which is sick. And we're so quick to look at this stuff and say, screw you, God, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, God knows us better than we know ourselves. He knows the things that we need because they develop us into a better person. In 2 Corinthians 12, Paul states one thing that has always stuck with me. He says that he was given a thorn in the flesh, and a lot of the scholars like to think that the thorn in his flesh was some sort of disease. But what Paul says is God spoke to him and said, my grace is sufficient enough for you, that my power is made perfect in weakness. And so even though I like to look at diabetes and say, oh, this is just something that holds me back, I really do believe that God gave me this disease because he knew I needed this in order to become the great version that God wanted me to be. I'm not great by any means, but I definitely think I may be a worse person if I didn't have this disease. So to conclude this whole thing, I think we're so quick to say, God, why did you do this to me? And it took me at least 10 years to recognize that God gave this to me on purpose because he knew what I needed. It develops me into who I am today. I'm healthier with diabetes. I'm more mentally healthy because I have diabetes. I know I'm responsible for my actions. I watch my diet so closely. And if I didn't have diabetes, who knows if I would do any of that stuff. God has everything laid out exactly how it's supposed to be. And even if it sucks, there's a design to suffering and pain.